speaking of wildlife, in Arizona, there's a hot topic right now. They're the first state to do a statewide, year-long, all-outright ban on trail cameras. So there are states right now that have like hybrid laws where maybe you can't use a drone, you can't use a cellular one that sends you pictures automatically, you can't use a smart one that takes video. They all have like different laws and things like that are in place. There's a few of them Western states that have that. But Arizona just voted on 5-0. So the Commission of Game and Fish, they did a public-wide survey on it. And in the public-wide survey, they found that it got voted down 2-1 by the public. But that didn't stop the Game and Fish Commission from voting in favor of it 5-0.
So they overrode
Disregarded.
the public, which I'm not always against, because I do not like, for instance, we don't have dove hunting in Michigan. I talk about it all the time. We don't because we put it to a public vote.
That's
it
true.
wasn't based on science, and now we don't have a dove hunting season when we should and it's not based on science. So that is something that I personally don't like.
But then again, that was here in Michigan. That was provoked from our own DNR. They knew what the response would be if they had left it up. I feel as though they would have knew what the response would be if they had left it up to public vote.
I could not agree with you more. I couldn't, but at the same token, that's roughly how I feel. It should be based on science.
Yeah.
But it's also up to us to advocate to make sure that the people that are in office are making scientific-based decisions.
Yeah.
That's where this gets interesting. So, reading the articles and reading the news stories, my first inclination was to get mad. 100% on the side
Punch a wall.
Why? Yeah. My name's Kyle. I was drinking a Monster Energy and I started punching walls. No, right off the gate, my first thought was to get mad. And I was like, all right, well, we'll hear him out. So going through it, there was an interview done with the head of Game and Fish in Arizona, and I had the interview brought up, and essentially they talked to it, and there was already a ban on live action cameras. Now there's a few different reasons why. One of which is they say that it inhibits fair chase. Now,
Okay.
keep in mind we're sitting in Michigan right now. So this is their argument. If you go to Arizona, they're in the midst of a 20-year drought right now, okay? So the game in Arizona, especially big game like elk, is condensed and pushed towards water sources. So they are pushed towards water sources. Therefore, the argument is by putting game cameras out, allowing it on public or private property, by having those game cameras out, you're going to have a lot of hunter conflict with each other because they're kind of condensed to these areas. So they're putting a lot of They're putting a lot of cameras out around the watering holes, if you will. And then because of that, they talked originally. They were talking about, should we do it where we'll do something along the lines of like there has to be this much space between trail cams, or you can only check them at certain times. And they kind of played with ideas, a bunch of different ideas on how to do this. But the overall thought was they were worried, and they actually had an emergency hearing on this, saying that it was based on what they were seeing online and the way hunters were interacting with each other over trail cam photos and stuff like that. They considered it a public safety disaster, that they had to ban trail cameras as soon as possible because there would be so many conflicts with them putting pressure on game in these condensed areas. So the other thing is they felt that it wasn't they feel it's not fair chase. They're saying that if they were in a different state, they might not say that. They might not say it's not fair chase.
Because they're all going to watering holes.
That because the trail cameras make it not fair chase, and they think it would negatively impact the game there. And that's kind of their stance on it. So the commission had previously banned live action cameras, which includes drones and cell cameras in 2018. And with this month's vote, it has been added the conventional cameras to the list, meaning just the ones that something walks in front of it, a motion camera, it takes a picture. So the process began last October when the governor's office approved an unscheduled emergency rulemaking period based on the AZGFD's claim that trail cameras posed an immediate threat to public health and safety because of conflicts over camera placement, including disagreements on social media. In December, the commission voted to consider a potential rule change and opened a public comment period that extended from January 1st to February 1st. during which they received thousands of emails and letters and phone calls. In its initial response, the public opposed the ban by roughly 2-1 margin. In a second round of public comments, they received 1,845 comments, and 1,019 of them were against the ban. So a majority, any way you cut it, is against the ban. And so, like I said, they feel that it's putting too much stress on the species, and there are 3,100 water catchments in the state, and the vast majority of which are on public land and are mapped. So when people start placing and checking cameras on those limited water sources, there's going to be conflicts. So they said this is the what's his name? Davis is his last name. Kurt Davis. He's kind of the spokesperson for him, and he said confrontations are only part of the problem. As a commission, we also have to consider the quality of a hunter's time in the field. We have multiple seasons and in many units, and if the first season archery elk hunter is out hunting, and then the third season rifle hunter is coming in and putting trail cameras in these limited areas, then he's disrupting the other hunts. In addition to this information, they said that they have a lot of new hunters that they didn't have before. So the number of new hunters in Arizona is skyrocketing right now. So it's like too much all at once is the way they see it. So that's their debate on it.
The Greenway Outdoors is brought to you by Ram Trucks, built to serve. Motor Trend's Truck of the Year for the third year in a row. And by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Your adventure starts here. If you'd like to help support the Greenway Outdoors, please like and comment on this podcast and subscribe to all of our channels.
So what if you're just using a camera just to enjoy nature?
Yeah, so that as far as they put it, that it's in any way, shape, or form to pursue or to track or anything like that with game.
To harvest the animal.
Yeah.
If that's your intention and you're using a trail cam, then it's not allowed.
Yeah, but if you go out there with a trail camera right now, you're going to get a ticket no matter what your intentions are.
Right. I mean,
'cause they're saying
that'd be a hard one to escape. Be like,
and
oh, no, it's just for fun.
They call it, they say preseason, during season, and postseason you can't do it. So they might as well just say year-round.
I feel like it should be like a temporary ban because hopefully the rain comes back. But like you said, 20-year drought.
Aren't all laws temporary bans?
Yeah.
There you go.
You can
Well,
just get rid of them.
Yeah. Executive order even. Just sign away.
At first listen, when you hear like they're banning cameras, you're immediately like, oh, that's ridiculous. Screw that. Then you kind of get into it a little bit more, and there is some, I can see why it's a thing. But in the end, though, it's like if you're out bird watching and taking pictures of birds, the DNR are going to come up and look at your camera and make sure you're not taking, scouting pictures potentially of land.
Right, and then it's not illegal to go scout, though.
Right.
See, they're talking about, like, the trail camera. So it's starting to break down these arguments now. So the one about the hunter going in and disrupting the other hunter because he's going to check trail cameras. Well, if a hunter is walking out on a public land to put out a camera and use that camera to get those pictures and stuff like that, he's going to put in the work to scout, right? Like, he's willing to do that. Why wouldn't it mean that now he's going to spend more time there disrupting hunts because he has to scout harder? He has to spend more time out there to gather more information because he doesn't have the trail camera anymore. Wouldn't mean that.
Maybe they're taking the gamble that a lot of these people don't have the time to do that. They're just going out on their weekend, one weekend a year that they can go, and that's as much like that's the gamble they're taking.
And think about that you're saying that's their gamble. So their gamble is the hope that less people will go out and enjoy nature, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
They'll spend less time out there. And isn't the whole point of us funding the Department of Natural Resources with our hunting and fishing licenses? They have more funding than they've ever had if there's more hunters than they've ever had. So they're getting more funding, and now they're tightening things down, with gambling, hoping it'll keep people out of the woods.
Yeah.
That seems weird.
We have a friend that lives there and does elk hunts. It'd be worth I might call him just to see what his opinion on the whole
Isn't
matter
that the
is.
one he does mountain lions too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
His name's Brian Joseph.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to talk to him. We still have never put that mountain lion hunt together.
No, he's a cool dude.
I'd like to go in like December or January is supposed to be the best time.
He knows his stuff. But yeah, it'd be worth calling him to see what his perspective on it is, just because he's so tied up in all that. And the other thing about this, are they more concerned about hunter conflict or making the chase harder for the animal?
They
Good
made it
question.
sound like it was a combination of that. They couldn't. They're like, here's the 3 or 4 reasons why.
Because if they were worried about like the pursuit of the animal being easier, why wouldn't they just lower the amount of tags they're putting out there?
Right. I don't think hindering a hunter's likelihood of success is smart.
I don't think so
Why
either.
wouldn't they just sell less tags? Although, think about it. They sell less tags, they make less money. They probably don't want
Right.
to lose that aspect.
Right.
So they need to if they're
So they just need to do something to make it harder.
yeah. It's just to me, I don't think stopping trail cams is like lowering the success rate hypothetically of the person that buys a hunting license. Ironically, the only time I've ever used trail cams, I didn't harvest a deer there.
That is true.
And I had all kinds of pictures.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, well, I can't hunt at night, so that's all I've learned.
Yep.
Just kidding. Kind of kidding. So that's something to think about there. So going over it, my opinions on it are, I think, Ryan, you have something there. If they're worried about the ease of the hunting or too many people pressuring one area or that sort of thing, I don't think banning trail cams or using trail cams is a likely way to solve that problem. I do not believe that trail cams necessarily, I don't think they make that big a difference, I guess is what I want to say. I think if you are using trail cams, you're one of two people.
Yep.
And I'm going to say this. You're either on your own private land,
Mm-hmm.
you're likely using bait or making mock scrapes,
Mm-hmm.
and you've got a game trail that you're pretty sure is good, and you're putting it there, and you're just seeing what's on your property, and you've got 50 acres to hunt anyway, so you're going to be sitting somewhere on that 50 acres. You might increase your likelihood of seeing that deer by 10%, and that's probably group 1. Group 2 is a rare group and a small group of people that are going out on public land, hightailing it across the country, risking their trail cam that they're leaving on public property to not be stolen, to not be found, and doing it often enough to, and getting far enough away from so many people that their trail cam isn't stolen, that because they always get taken, which is messed up. Like I really hate that.
Yeah.
You know, it
What
really
are you doing?
it kind of hurts me when I hear about all the stories of people taking them. I just feel like that group of people that are using those trail cameras, that are putting in that work and effort, shouldn't have it taken away from them.
No.
And if your fear is how people are interacting, and like their fear is like, oh, there's going to be conflict with guns because there's people disputing trail cameras or this or that or whatever it might be. I mean, those things are going to get worked out one way or the other, and I just don't think there's not a lot of scenarios that I could see. I mean, people argue online. People online are different than they are in person. So I think that's important to note to make.
A lot of times with people that we encounter that show us their trail cams, they're always looking for a specific, we'll say deer. Like, oh, there's that deer that I'm hoping to
That's
get.
true.
And they're always looking for that one specifically when they're out hunting.
Yeah, if anything, they're more picky
Yeah.
because they know it's there.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would say that too.
Yeah.
That's a great point, AJ. So I just feel like those two groups of people that this impacts, that I think I did a decent job describing, and I'm sure there's a third group and everyone will hate me, but I'm going to say 95% of people are going to fall under one of those two groups. And I don't think that those two groups are going to cause a whole lot of conflict with guns and with each other.
No.
And just because people are trolling each other online, let me post a picture of a fish and see what happens online
Yeah.
from other fishermen because I held it wrong or I used the wrong hook
Yeah.
or, they wouldn't have kept it, and let them go, let them grow. I just can't wait to hear all the crybabies in the hunting and fishing industry, the old timers that hate everything about us just because we're young. So it doesn't, that I'm unaffected by that. And I think this is and the fact that I think that the reason why I'm most irritated by it is the rush for public safety.
That one kills me.
Shut up.
Why don't they do it like a you know how we go to the Point Mouillet? It's a duck that you do the draw.
Yep.
And why don't you put in for a year ahead of time? You pick the amount of tags, the amount of people that can be chosen. Whoever's chosen first gets their first pick of where they want to go in the state and when they can be there. And then from that point on, depending on when you were drawn in the list, that changes maybe what zone in the state you get and what what 2 weeks you're able to go into that spot.
Yeah, and I mean they have different seasons, and they have different like first season, second season, third season, fourth season, and they kind of separate things that way. And I mean that's basically what they're working on. I think what they're worried about isn't necessarily when you can go in and hunt; it's when you're going in and impacting things. So if by going off of what you're saying, perhaps if you have this elk tag for this week, then you're only allowed in like 4 days prior and 4 days after, or something like that to minimize that. That would work. But I want people to go out and enjoy lands. I want public lands that are funded by the people that they're doing their darndest to make sure that they can't, you know.
You also have to
these
respect
conflicts.
the population.
I also don't believe in. I don't believe in government deciding to try and soften and weaken possible conflicts between adults. Like, well, they won't be able to handle this. These conflicts will be just too great for them, and they'll start shooting each
How are you
other
making
over a
these-
camera.
How are you making these choices?
I don't need someone to babysit me to that level.
No.
So I guess if I had to vote on it, I would vote no.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no too.
Yeah. But I did at least, I think I did a good job of, at least there is another argument. Like the other side is like, has a decent argument. I just don't think that's the way to fix it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I would like to see a different route.